Hey there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Today I'm going to do a trope recommendation video where I'm going to focus on one of the most fun tropes, I think, and one of my recent favorite tropes that I have read plenty of in the past year. So I do have a couple of recommendations that I can share with you. The trope that I want to focus on is fake dating. It's been quite popular in the past year or two, so there's quite a few books that have come out with this trope, and I think it's a very fun trope because very much like a marriage of convenience trope, we have two people who maybe reluctantly need to make an agreement with each other to pretend that they like each other or that they are dating. But in this situation, it's not very much a very big commitment because they don't get married, but they do have to pretend to like each other. While in the beginning, they may be either opposites, or they may be strangers, or they may be even enemies in specific situations. And then eventually, once they spend time together, you find out that they actually do have things in common, or that they have some chemistry and things develop. So I really think that this is one of the more fun tropes within romance books, and I have quite a few books that I want to recommend to you, so stick around to find out which books I have planned to share with you. So the very first book that I think of when it comes to the fake dating trope that I picked up last year and I absolutely loved is Christina Lauren's The Soulmate Equation. This book, I think, really stood out to me because besides the fact that it has a very interesting fake dating concept, it also has a very interesting premise where we have a dating company that uses DNA and genetic samples to try and match two people together. And they're trying to kind of guarantee that those people will be able to have a successful relationship if they have a high percentage in match. And we have our main heroine, Jess, who by chance meets the main doctor, who is the genetics doctor within this experiment or company. Dr. River Peña, he's a favorite of mine, if I have to be honest. I really remember him very vividly, and I have really very kind feelings towards him, even though he starts off as being a bit of an aloof, asshole-ish type of guy. In the beginning of the book, he moves on to become a very swoon-worthy hero, in my opinion. So Jess meets River Peña at this coffee shop that they both frequent, and it turns out that he is the main doctor for this company, and she kind of gets roped into putting in a sample for the dating app by her best friend, and it turns out that she has a 98% match with no one other than Mr. Peña, or Dr. Peña himself. So the fake dating trope within this book comes into play when this result comes in, and the company offers Jess a compensation for seeing whether a relationship will work out between them for promotional purposes. So they need to pretend to be dating to see whether something will happen between them for marketing purposes for this dating app. So she kind of, because she is reluctant to kind of admit that this experiment will work, she is very skeptical. And I think that River Peña is also very skeptical because he kind of, while he does believe in what he's working with the experiment, he kind of is not looking for love. So he is very in a bit of a peculiar situation himself. So I think the premise of the book is just really nice, and the fake dating aspect worked out really well because it kind of forced them to be together for the marketing purposes, but then they did kind of get to know each other, and they appreciated different things within their characters. And I definitely recommend this book. It left me feeling very giddy to pick up other books like this one. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. The second book will come as no surprise to anyone. It's The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. This book has blown up on any type of social media that you can think of since last year because it's a book which is set in STEM world. We have a PhD student, Olive, and we have a professor within this institute whose name is Adam. And they kind of strike up a fake dating deal after both of them find out that they need to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend for specific reasons. And they have this amazing meet cute where Olive kind of grabs him and kisses him out of nowhere because of something that has happened in the first couple of percent within the book, and it's just such a funny scene, and the whole banter between the two, the situation that arises from the fake dating, the forced proximity is just so amazing within the book. I think that this book has a high rating for a very good reason, and I think it was hyped up for a very good reason. If you haven't yet picked it up, it's definitely worth your time. And yeah, I definitely love the first book. I just picked up the second book and I can't wait to see how that will turn out. And yeah, it's a very good fake dating romance, so pick it up. The next book doesn't really have a big hype around it. It's one which I think is a debut novel, so I hope that many people will pick it up and can see that it's an amazing book. At least I thought it was quite fun. It's called A Proposal They Can't Refuse by Natalie Caña, and the book centers around Camilla and Liam, who kind of share a property because their grandparents were best friends, and they purchased this property where they kind of split it up. Half of it is a distillery, half of it is a Puerto Rican restaurant. So Camilla owns, together with her family, the restaurant, and then Liam with his family owns the distillery. Each of them so they've been friends when they were young, but they didn't really have a falling out, but they kind of just drifted apart. And then now they have this kind of a more enemies type of relationship where they have a lot of banter with each other. They kind of make jabs towards each other. So they have quite this entertaining relationship. But then something happens. Their grandfathers decide that if something doesn't happen, that they're going to need to sell the property, and they kind of strike a deal with Camilla and Liam that they need to do a fake engagement with each other to progress within the scheme that the two grandfathers have. And it's just such a fun concept because the grandfathers are absolutely amazing. Their relationship with each other, but also with the main characters, is amazing. The fact that we have childhood friends to strangers to lover situation is also very nice. And the fake dating aspect within this one, it's actually a fake engagement technically speaking, but still I would say it's not a marriage of convenience situation because they don't get married throughout the most part of the book. So yeah, I think it's a very cute book, and the fact that it has to do with food, with whiskey, with just an amazing how do you say it, like secondary characters that you have within the book. It just is definitely worth your time. The next book on my fake dating list is one which was also wildly popular, but I definitely want to recommend it because it was such an entertaining read. I just flew through it. It's a Not So Meet Cute by Meghan Quinn. In this book, we follow Lottie and Huxley. Lottie has had some bad luck. She got fired from her job, and her job was actually at this place where a supposed friend of hers was her boss, but it turns out that her boss is an absolute bitch. So she kind of fired her for very unprofessional reasons, and Lottie was kind of really looking forward to get a promotion within her job so she could move out of her parents' house, and she's kind of lying to her parents that she's going to get the promotion, while in the meantime she's looking for another option. And she kind of on a whim decides to go to this rich people neighborhood, which is very, very close to where she's living at the moment, and to try to find herself a rich husband. Here comes in Huxley, who is actually the rich guy she meets, and he, for his own reasons, needs someone to date him and actually pretend to be engaged to him, as well as pretend to have a baby with him or to be pregnant with his baby, because within his job he has had a very peculiar run-in with a client that has gone way out of hand. I just don't want to mention too much. If you're very interested in such a trope where you have a very outrageous situation, but also amazingly fun spin-off consequences because of the situation, this is the book for you. It's so much fun. I laughed out loud at many different moments within the book, and I really flew through it, like I mentioned before. So if you want to have a quick, very funny and fake dating, definitely a fake dating romance, this one is for you. Next up, I have to mention The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This book also blew up on every social media last year. It was so popular, but I do have to say that it's a more lengthy book. This is one of the things that I think many people had as a remark or a feedback, that it was quite longer. It should have been maybe edited better, and I do agree to some extent, but I do have to say that it was an amazing romantic, swoony, fake dating romance. We're following Catalina and Aaron, who are co-workers. At the beginning of the book, we find out that Catalina has a disliking towards Aaron because he kind of was maybe neglectful, or maybe was showing some signs during meetings that he doesn't view her professionally as like an equal colleague. So she kind of has this misconception about him that he's not a very good guy. And what happens is Catalina is invited to a wedding where she needs to attend the wedding of her ex. So she thinks that she really shouldn't show up at this wedding alone, because it would just kind of put out the wrong message that she may not be over him, and everyone would just not be very kind towards her, and not be understanding towards her situation. So she's kind of looking for a date where he would fly out to Spain with her to this wedding, and Aaron volunteers as tribute. She's very confused by this because she thinks that he doesn't actually like her, but they strike up a deal to fake date for this wedding, and a lot of things happen after that. It's a swoony romance. I absolutely loved Aaron in this book, and while there is a lot of miscommunication within the book and there are certain things that are really dragged out, I really did appreciate also the wedding aspect, the Spanish kind of setting also within the book. So it's definitely an interesting read, and I do recommend it. Next up, we have another romantic comedy by Christina, which is called The Unhoneymooners. This was also, I think, one of their popular books, and it does have a decent rating on Goodreads as well. I thought it was fun. I think I gave it 3 to 3.5 stars. It's a book which centers around Olive and Ethan. Both of them attend their siblings' wedding. So Ethan's brother is marrying Olive's identical twin. And unfortunately, everyone gets food poisoning at this wedding. The only people who don't get the food poisoning are Olive and Ethan. And the thing is, the bride and groom actually won this honeymoon, which is non-refundable, non-cancelable. So someone needs to go in their stead and pretend to be them. And in this case, that's Olive and Ethan. Both of them present themselves as the bride and groom within the situation, so they can enjoy the Hawaiian holiday that was planned. And it turns out that they actually hate each other for specific reasons. So it's a very interesting concept of people who genuinely dislike each other needing to share a room, share a suite, and go on this vacation pretending to love each other. It's a very fun read. I had a blast reading it. There were some things that were maybe a bit mediocre, but still it was an entertaining read, and I definitely think you should pick it up if you like fake dating romances. For this next book, honestly, I didn't know that it was a fake dating romance until I actually read it. I picked it up because it's a Friends to Lovers book, which is one of my favorite tropes. So when I started reading it, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there is also a fake dating aspect within the book. The book is called The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, and within the story we're following Nathan and Bree. It's actually a sports romance where we have Nathan, and he is a football player, American football player. And Bree is his best friend, and Bree has actually always been in love with him, but she kind of quickly found out that the best way to go would be to preserve their friendship. So she never kind of voiced her feelings for him, and she remained his best friend for all this time and never kind of voicing her feelings for him. In the meantime, Nathan is a real playboy. He's kind of going through women and not really having any serious relationships, but situation arises where he needs to fake date someone, and this is where Bree comes in. So we have a childhood best friends to fake dating to lovers situation, and I absolutely loved it. It was a quick read. I do know that a lot of people kind of thought that it was a mediocre read, but I don't know whether it was the fact that I picked up the audiobook for it or whether the fact that I didn't expect that there was a fake dating trope within it, but I really flew through it and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, so if you're looking for a quick fun read, this one is definitely worth the time. Next up, we have a book which I wouldn't say was a favorite of mine when it comes to the fake dating aspect, but because I really loved the first book and I kind of rolled into the second book, I did really like it. It's The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. Within this book, we're following Solange and Dean. And in the beginning of the book, Dean actually is set to get married to someone else, but Solange actually finds out that the bride is cheating on the almost groom with someone else, and she decides to kind of crash the wedding because yeah, she thinks that it's not nice for the bride to be lying to her husband or future husband. So she kind of crashes the wedding, but in the meantime, Dean kind of needs to fake date someone for some purposes, and he kind of proposes to Solange to have this arrangement, and she, for her own reasons, also agrees. I'm not sure that the fake dating here was the best in execution, but there were definitely some really interesting situations going on here, because unlike the other books that I've just recommended here, the two people don't actually know each other very well. They're really essentially strangers, and as they fake date, they kind of get to know each other. They find out that they're quite opposite to each other. Solange is someone who really believes in love and wants a loving relationship, while Dean is someone who is very practical and doesn't believe in love and kind of wants to have a partner for his life but not really depend on love too much. So they're really opposites, but then for some reason, probably because opposites sometimes attract, they kind of get together and they explore their relationship together. So this one was a bit of a different one. I did appreciate some aspects within the book. Some aspects kind of bothered me, so it wasn't a favorite of mine. But if you're interested in a more different type of take on fake dating, you can pick up this one. Another interesting take on a fake dating romance, because of the cultural aspects within the book, is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. I absolutely love this book. I picked it up a couple of months ago and I still remember it quite vividly. It's quite an entertaining read. Specifically also because of the cultural aspects within the book. It was a really well developed story. All of the aspects were really well thought out of, and the development between the relationship of the two characters was very gradual. So we really got to follow why they were enemies at the beginning, how the fake dating was benefiting both of them, and how their relationship developed within the fake dating. So I really appreciated this one a lot. We're following Karina and Prim. Both of them are really opposites, because we have Karina, who really believes in love, and Prim, who doesn't. He's actually on a TV show where he's kind of trying to scientifically prove that love isn't good for you, while Karina really is looking for her prince on a white horse and her happily ever after. When she meets Prim at the beginning of the book, she meets him under specific circumstances where she actually loves spending time with him, but something happens that kind of makes them clash. And then she meets him a second time at a different setting, and there's an explosive reaction between them, which triggers the fake dating aspect within the book. I absolutely love this one. Really, it's a gem of a book, and I definitely recommend it. The last book that I'm going to recommend is one which was also wildly popular, but I just recently finished it, so I just definitely want to mention it here as well. It's The Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This book is a male-male relationship, focuses on a male-male relationship, where we have Luke and Oliver. Luke is this son of some rock star, so he has some media coverage around him, and unfortunately for him, he was caught in a bit of a compromising situation. So his boss kind of suggests that he needs to find someone to have a relationship with, to show that he can be representative of the values of the company. Otherwise they're going to be losing clients, which may trigger to him losing his job. And then this is where Oliver comes in. A friend of Luke's suggests that Luke and Oliver date, and Luke explains to Oliver at some point within their date that he really needs this to work because otherwise he's going to lose his job. And for specific reasons of his own, Oliver decides to agree to fake date Luke to kind of better his reputation. This book was really cute. I really loved Oliver within this book. I had some issues with Luke, to be honest. There were a bit of moments where he was really insecure, which kind of irked me at some times, but if you can get past that, the romance between the two is absolutely amazing. It's very wholesome, and Oliver is just such a swoon-worthy hero. I definitely recommend it, and I can't wait to pick up the second book. I want to see how their relationship will progress, and I'll let you know once I finish that one whether I loved it as well. This wraps up my fake dating recommendation video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really love talking about fake dating romances because it's just such a fun trope within romance novels. If you know of books with fake dating that I haven't picked up yet or that I haven't mentioned in this video, please leave them down below in a comment because I'm looking forward to picking up other books and maybe doing a part 2 of this video. And if you've read any of the books that I did mention, please leave your opinions about them down below as well. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.